All right, so today I am taking a look at something really fun, which is a Heaven Hill product. It's Mellow Corn, bottled in bond, straight corn whiskey. So straight wheat whiskey, straight bourbon whiskey, straight rye whiskey. The difference with straight corn whiskey is a couple things. One, it has to be a mash of 80% corn at a minimum. And then the other rules are the same. It can't be distilled higher than 160 proof, and it can't be put in the barrel at more than 125 proof. But the barrel is really the key difference here, because if you're talking about straight corn whiskey, one, it has to be aged a minimum of 2 years, but it has to be either in a used barrel or a completely uncharred barrel. That means it's not in new charred oak whatsoever, and that is written into the law. So by its very nature, corn whiskey is going to be different than bourbon whiskey. And you can even tell that in the color. I mean, you look at the color there and you can see that it's a lot lighter, and it's going to have a little bit of a different flavor profile. So let's dig into it. So the very first thing you notice is a very distinct buttercream frosting aroma. It's a nice big hit of vanilla. There's a little bit of complexity there with some of the floral notes to it. A little bit of maltiness to it as well. And then there's just like a touch of like kind of an herbal mint eucalyptus thing going on. Not a lot, but just a touch of it. But the predominant aroma on the nose is that buttercream frosting, that vanilla frosting, okay? And it's bottled in bond, so it's a minimum of 4 years old, and it's 100 proof. One distillery, one distilling season. All right, let's give it a taste. So here's what I would say about Mellow Corn. If you are a Scotch whiskey drinker, you will immediately recognize the affinity between this and a blended Scotch whiskey. So for the majority of Scotch, they make blended whiskeys, Johnny Walker Black, Johnny Walker Red, Dewar's, etc. They blend essentially this same thing, massively made corn whiskey that's then aged in used barrels that have had bourbon in them before, and then they blend that with single malt, and that's what a blended Scotch is. Well, this is essentially what somebody would blend with some Scotch whiskey. Actually, I think it'd be really interesting to take a single malt Scotch whiskey and actually blend it with something like this, and kind of see what the result would be. Something really cool. So does it taste like bourbon whiskey? Absolutely not. I mean, some of maybe the corn sweetness is there, but this really tastes like grain Scotch. That's what it tastes like, because essentially that's what it is, but made here. The 100 proof is great to put this in a cocktail. I don't know that I would put it in like an old fashioned, but I could certainly see this being used very effectively in like a whiskey sour, because it does have that kind of pillowy, soft vanilla sweet note going on. And when you pair that with some citrus, you take the sweet and you take the sour and put them together, and I think it would be fantastic as a whiskey sour. So that's Mellow Corn. It's a Heaven Hill product. It's definitely it's definitely a throwback label. They really just haven't changed anything on this. It's kind of a hipster favorite. Bartenders, you'll see it on drink menus and at some interesting places. But you can do some cool stuff with it. But it's definitely one to have in your collection if you're just a lover of the aesthetics of bourbon labels and bourbon branding. It's also a great one to take a look at closely. You can see here the very bright colors, the illustrations, really the typeface, just has not changed in a long time, and it's great. It's kind of a new classic, if you will. But they still make it, they still sell it, and it's definitely one I think worth checking out if you never have. So there you go. All right, cheers.